breathe purple and gold? Are you ready to hoist the colors? Now, time for the most in-depth look at the world of ECU athletics. Welcome in to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Now, here's your host, Stephen Igo.
Welcome in, Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday, December 17th edition of the program. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. As always, if you got a question, a comment, a concern, drop it there. We'll get to it over the next hour. We've got a lot to get to. We are going to talk some ECU football, of course, with Maceo Donald. We'll introduce him here in a second. We're also going to dive further into Philip Pilkin and I later in the program into the ECU baseball schedule. I've got to look at the RPIs from last year, all the opponents. We'll break that down. We also got Pirate basketball tonight hosting FIU, really in need of a win, 3 straight losses. We'll discuss that and more. We'll get into some transfer portal talk as ECU set to host double-digit visitors really starting yesterday through Thursday, and we had that information up on hoistthecolors.net. So a lot going on, and we will cover it over the course of the next hour. All right, let's introduce today's cast. We've got Maceo Donald, who is working through some internet issues. But, hey, you joined us. You joined us, and you made the move to find some stable connections. So, Maceo, how's it going, man?
It's going good. Everything besides that, moving around a little bit today. So, we're still trying to get on the call, man. But good to see you guys.
Hey, it says a lot when you drop everything you're doing to hop on the show. So I appreciate you doing that, as always, man. Philip Pilkin back in the 94.3 The Game studios. He's holding it down. Philip, how's it going on this Tuesday?
It's good. Hey, we got Maceo on, and he sounds great, and he looks great, and so nobody's going to yell at me, at least knock on wood. Everything looks and sounds good. So it's a good day so far, and we're 2 minutes into the show, 58 to go, baby. Let's keep on. Let's keep on keeping on.
58 more minutes to go. We will get there one way or another. All right, Maceo, let's start close to home with East Carolina. Philip and I, along with Joe Sampson, discussed the big news on Monday that it kind of broken over the weekend. ECU's apparent new defensive coordinator, still not official yet. Josh Aldridge coming over from Auburn, where he was the linebackers and edge coach the last couple of years. He's been with Hugh Freeze before that at Liberty, has coached at Lenore-Ryan, West Georgia, so he has coached smaller places in terms of the college football landscape, bigger places. What was your thoughts on the hire? Have you been able to do any research on Coach Aldridge?
Not too much, but it to me, it kind of seems like it's going to be one of those teams where he's going to be able to facilitate kind of what Coach Harrell wants to do and still have a lot of input and to be able to fill that role. I mean, he's done it before, been at a big university. So he kind of has that experience, especially in a conference like the SEC where defense is a big factor. So he's going to be able to put our guys in the best position. But obviously, Coach Harrell, I think, will still have a big impact and kind of a big footprint over the defense. To me, I kind of see it's kind of going to be the overseer as Coach Harrell handles those head coaching duties he's now going to have to get accustomed to.
Yeah, I was going to ask, Maceo, how hard do you think it's going to be for Coach Harrell to really take a step back from the defense in terms of calling it, because that's kind of been his baby now. Like, I think it'd be a little easier if he was going to a new location, but going from like ECU D coordinator to now head coach, like I'm sure he's still going to be in on meetings and game planning and all that, but it's got to be pretty hard to step away from your baby after doing it for 5 years, right?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely will be hard for him, and he has other duties he has to worry about now and other parts of the whole scheme and just the game plan that he's going to have to worry about at this point. So I still think he's going to have a big hold on it. I'm sure he's still going to want to be heavily involved with the linebackers. I know the new guy, I think he was a linebackers coach over at Auburn, but Coach Harrell's definitely going to still want to have a big impact with them and still kind of run his defense, which I'm sure they're still going to do. But it's just going to be an adjustment just like everything. I think he made a good adjustment just this second half of the season. So I'm sure it'll be something similar like that as we move forward.
Quick question for you, Igo, because it's something we had not talked about. Do we know, because, Blake was the inside linebackers coach, as Maceo mentioned, he's moved into head coach now, and because Coach Aldridge was the linebackers coach, is he just going to fit right in where Blake was, I guess, DC and linebackers coach and no movement, or do we know that yet?
We do not know the official answer to that yet, but that is my understanding. You still have Rico Zachary on staff, who has coached the edge since getting the job last offseason. Obviously, there's an opening at corners coach. We'll see how ECU approaches that. But I would assume, at least to start with, Josh Aldridge will coach the linebackers and then coordinate the defense from that area. I have not heard otherwise, and I know Zachary, Coach Zachary's still out there recruiting some edge guys. They got a couple guys visiting this week that he has offered. So I would think that's the case, but certainly Coach Aldridge. I mean, he has coached D-line, edge, linebacker, and he's done it at all different levels. So I think that's a big benefit for ECU. But still got a need at corners coach with Jules Montanar moving on, so that's another spot they got to fill as well. Philip Pilkington and Maceo Donald with us on this Tuesday. Maceo, were you surprised at all that Coach Harrell went maybe outside of his immediate tree? Like, he didn't bring back Trip Weaver, he didn't promote Roy Tesh? Or do you think that's a good thing to maybe bring some fresh ideas and everything?
Yeah, you might want some fresh ideas. And, even like Weave, he was under Coach Houston. He was a Houston guy, quote unquote. So some of those decisions might not have been up to him as a first-time head coach. But I wasn't that surprised. I think, you usually see this with offensive coaches where their offensive coordinator become head coaches and they still bring in another guy. Sometimes they call them analysts or supervisors, offensive supervisors. So I think that role is still going to be similar with this new coach here at ECU. Because Harold's a defensive guy. He's going to want to have control over it. He's going to want to have his footprint all over the game plan and the defensive game plan. So I still think it's going to kind of be Harold's baby, but maybe someone that can bring some new ideas, someone that's still going to be with the players day to day while Coach Harold runs his, head coaching duties.
All right, I just got a email that has Winston Wright as another All-American honor, this time from the Football Writers Association of America. Second team kick returner, as he obviously had a good year as a kick returner along with receiver. Maceo, we talked about on yesterday's show. From what I understand, there's a chance Winston Wright may opt out of the bowl game and not play due to, I assume, his draft stock. I don't think he's got a high draft grade, but is a candidate to be a late-round pick or an undrafted free agent. That's not official, but has been talked about, and I think he's still making that decision. You got NIL factors and other things involved too. What, if he's unable to play in the bowl and you're already down Chase Sowell, how much of a concern is that? Or with Jari Patterson and Yannick Smith, is it not as big of a concern as it may seem?
I mean, I think it's still a huge concern. I think you still have other options like Jari Patterson, who's had a lot of snaps these past couple of years, and Yannick, who's a young player who seems like he could be the future on the outside receiver room. So I don't think it's that big of a concern. It is definitely a concern, but if I'm Winston, I would want to play in the bowl game, especially if I'm thought of as only a kind of kick return guy and not just a normal receiver or slot guy that can do some things in the actual offensive setting, but just a kick returner. I would want to play, especially against a Power 5 opponent. I kind of can think back on when Keaton was getting drafted and he didn't do much kick returning, but if you guys noticed, he did kick returning in the bowl game because NFL scouts wanted to see what he could do there. They knew he could run the ball when you hand it off to him, but what could he do in the return game? So I think that could be a big factor in it. If I was Winston, that's what I want to do, kind of show them what I can do in the receiver room. With they think I'm only a kick returner.
Yeah, Philip, we talked about that a little bit yesterday. I can't remember if it was on or off the show, but I would think this is a chance for him to improve his stock. I mean, I don't think he's going to lose any stock unless obviously he gets hurt, which is always a risk. And we did see him get hit, I think, on the final play or on a punt return against North Texas. So, and that caused a little bit of injury. But I would think that the pros outweigh the cons here, but maybe I'm not looking at it through the right lens. That's just my perspective from the outside looking in.
Yeah, it kind of comes down to where you think your likelihood of actually getting a shot is, right? If that shot is guaranteed, you're either going to get drafted or you're going to be one of the first guys signed after the draft. I don't love the opt-out, but I understand it. You're making a career decision, right? Is Winston right in that? I don't think so. And now the tough part, if you're him, is because you're not one of those guys, an injury could be career-ending, and not just because it's a career-ending injury, but it's because you never get that camp invite that first season. and then your host. They're not going to call you out that second season if you didn't even get an in-camp invite your first. So that must be what he's coming at it from. But here's the thing. I think if you're Winston Wright, you're not guaranteed that invite anyways. Go out there, play. It's one game. Can anything happen? Sure. Pray about it, hope that nothing happens. But at the end of the day, look, scouts are always watching games, but they're especially watching bowl games. There's only going to be 2 or 3 games on in the country at that time. Every other time this year, you've been one of how many games on a Saturday, right? One of over 60 games. So this is an opportunity for a lot of eyes to be on you. But I understand both sides of it because, like I said, God forbid you tear your ACL, you tear your Achilles, you snap your leg, you don't get an invite this May. That may never come.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. Every situation is different. You make a lot of good points there, Philip. I just think if ECU's without Sewell and Wright and Barker and obviously CJ Mims, which isn't probably as big of a loss due to the defensive line room as seniors, but also without Isaiah Brown Murray, like the losses are starting to add up. Whereas NC State, they're without Concepcion. Most of their key returners are going to play in the game. I think one of their tackles may not due to the NFL draft, Anthony Belton. But I don't know, Maceo, we'll go around the horn here. I'm getting a little more nervous about the game just because ECU, you can only sustain so many losses from a personnel standpoint when you're kind of already maybe out-talented a little bit. So any more nerves going into this game with some of the guys not playing potentially for ECU?
Yeah, a little bit, and I think that's like a hurdle you're always going to face with as a Group of 5 school or facing off against a Power 4 school, whatever you want to call them, is that just that depth in your roster. It's always going to be the main difference between a school like us and a school like NC State. So for us to basically have us to, missing our top, I would say maybe 4 top guys at 4 different positions. If you're talking about Chase, who's the top guy, Zakai, who's the top guy in the linebacker room. Isaiah Brown Murray, who's our top corner after Savone got injured, and then you even talk about CJ Mims, who's probably going to be a top returning guy next season or would have been, and there's a big rotational guy this year. It does make you worry at those key positions, guys who played a lot of snaps and were trusted, but at the end of the day, you've seen crazier things happen, so I think we still got a shot, got to put together a game plan, and I wouldn't put it past State for looking kind of past ECU, which, you can't blame them for, but, you catch a guy's kind of sleeping on you, I think you have a chance then.
Yeah, Philip, it's really kind of a weird matchup. The more I look at NC State, they have a very talented team, but a very young team. I don't think many of these guys were on the roster, at all when ECU played NC State the last time, so they don't really know about maybe that game or what this game has been like from a competitive standpoint. So you got that maybe working in ECU's favor, but also just, I think at the end of the day, NC State's going to have more talent on the field on December 28th. Does that mean they'll win? Absolutely not, but that is a reality right now, maybe.
It is. It definitely is. But one of the nods that you give to East Carolina, like I said, is the experience. There are a lot of older guys playing. The great thing is we don't have a lot of senior opt-outs. That is the one perk to being a Group of 5 school, is where you don't have 6, 8, 10 guys who are going to get drafted. And then the one thing that worries me when you play a Power 5 school, and this is just the truth, and it's the truth 95% of the time, is they're going to be bigger than you in the trenches. And it stinks that East Carolina is losing some players. You mentioned Zakai Barker. You mentioned IBM. But so far, we've only got one guy that's a trench guy who's opted out or transferred, and that's why am I
CJ Mims.
CJ Mims, thank you. Yeah, so don't get me wrong, he's a good player, but that is the deepest room on this Pirate team. You have Chad Stevens, you have Big Tay, and you have a lot of others who can be in that situation, because that is where is always the difference. In Power 5 and Group of 5, it's the size of the interior that really makes the difference. There's plenty of great skill players around the country. There's plenty of great running backs, defensive backs, and wide receivers, but the size of those big men, that's what matters. So the fact that we've got all 5 starting offensive linemen playing in this game, most of the defensive linemen, that makes me feel better than if we were losing those positions. So you don't want to lose guys, but I'm glad it's guys in the back end.
11 days out from the Military Bowl. Maceo, from what I understand, they gave the players, I know that you guys did this, I think, the last time you went to the Military Bowl and maybe even for the Birmingham Bowl. Like, the players got a lot of time off for Christmas. They, I want to say, broke Friday, and they don't have to get back till late tomorrow night or tomorrow evening, and then they'll really ramp up work for NC State. So do you feel like that from a player's perspective, is that the best way to go about it versus maybe going into more of a spring practice, fall camp mode where you're just kind of spacing it out? Like give the guys a big break and then come back, go full throttle?
Yeah, I think so. If I can remember, we still kind of had the Military Bowl and the Birmingham Bowl. It was kind of that post-Christmas bowl game. So I think, after the season was over, we might got a couple days off. Then we kind of practiced, not as hard. Gave some guys some time to rest, and then we got about 4 days, 5 days off to go home, do whatever. So I think people would rather want that, to be able to see their families for a little bit before we wake up on Christmas morning in a hotel room. So I think guys kind of need that just to refresh and kind of can relax a little bit. But when you come back, it's time to play, and you're going to be practicing a lot more harder. You're going to travel up for the bowl game. You usually get there about 4 days earlier than the game. So that's still a cool experience, but I think the rest is a big factor right now, especially after playing, 12 games.
All right, Maceo, what was worse, Christmas in Annapolis or Christmas in Birmingham?
Christmas in Birmingham, Alabama was absolutely worse. The best part about that trip, besides winning, was seeing Alabama's facility, which was really cool. But that was, you're just basically in your hotel, in Birmingham, Alabama.
Wait, I do have a question about the indoor practice facility, or more what happened there at Alabama. Someone who may or may not be on the show regularly claims that they made some kicks in the indoor practice facility and tried to get Coach Houston to allow him to kick in the bowl game. Did this individual that I may or may not be referencing actually make some kicks in the indoor practice facility at Alabama?
I know you're talking about it, and I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you. But I trust him, so maybe he did. That's my guy right there. But I'm not sure. It was a lot going on, but we might have some old tape or some film of it. He has to pull up the receipts.
Yeah, we need the actual proof on that, because I don't believe that for a second. We know that Joe Sampson can eat shoes. I don't know if he can make a kick with a shoe. So I don't know.
Hey, maybe he did it barefoot style.
Yeah, that is true. Go the old school route. Yeah. All right, let's get a break in. We'll come back. I got a couple more things to ask Maceo about ECU football, and then we'll transition to some other discussion as well. Patrick Mahomes banged up. The Chiefs keep winning, though. They find a way. Maceo's Chiefs. He's also working on a column. I'll ask him about that for his local paper that he writes for. We'll get into that and more. This is Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern Living's best small town.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Sawyer's Fun Park in Winterville is now open. With over 40,000 square feet of family fun, daily money-saving deals, and a full-service restaurant, Sawyer's Fun Park is guaranteed to have something the whole family will love. Test your ninja skills on our 2-story obstacle course or head over to one of our 5 rock walls and race your friends to the top. And when you've worked up an appetite in our laser tag arena or our one-of-a-kind ropes course, grab a table over at the restaurant and try our world-famous Southern Monster Fries. Reserve your spot today at SawyersFunPark.com and come join in on the fun.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
ECU Athletics. This is Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back into Hoist the Colors, Tuesday, December 17th edition of the show. We've got ECU sideline reporter Maceo Donald, a former Pirate football player, hanging out, doing his best to join us on a Tuesday, providing insight as he has all season long. We really appreciated Maceo's time. We also have Philip Pilkington with us here on a Tuesday show. Programming note, so next week, again, we'll have shows all through this week. Next week, we will be off from Hoist the Colors due to Christmas Eve, all that. We will have a show from Annapolis on Friday, right before the bowl game. December 27th will be the date of our show next week. All right, Maceo Donald, have you decided if you're going up to Annapolis yet, or is that still to be determined?
Still to be determined. I would definitely like to get up there. That's obviously the plan. I don't like the cold, but that's still the plan, trying to.
So you weren't able to play in the game. You would at least like to go attend the game, right? So we got to make this happen.
Yeah.
Who do I need to call to get on this?
Your guy, your BFF.
My BFF. I'll give him a call. We'll knock it out. I'll make sure that he gets you a spot. So it is one of those things, man. It needs to happen. We got to get Maceo there. I'll be very disappointed if not.
And if we did play that bowl game in Annapolis a few years ago, I would not be in it. I was actually one of the few guys on our team that got COVID up there. So I was sitting in my window, looking out the window and seeing all of our team exit the building and wondering what's going on after they announced that we weren't playing the game. And family was calling and telling us, did the game get canceled? I'm like, I don't know. I'm in my hotel room stuck by myself with COVID, so I don't know. So it'll be pretty fun. Maybe it's kind of a maybe can avenge that time in Annapolis, hopefully.
What has been the discussion like with former players, Maceo? Because I've heard ticket sales for this game going pretty good, maybe not as good as I initially thought with it being NC State ECU. I don't know if it's just kind of how the season went for State. I think ECU's buying tickets at a pretty good rate, but like former players from ECU, are they excited about this game? Is it still kind of, I don't know, wishy-washy with it being a bowl game? What's the chatter like?
Well, I think recent players, getting to a bowl game is kind of the expectation and kind of where, for lack of better words, kind of where we left the program and wanted to build the program too when we were coming in. So I think it's still something that guys want to attend and want to be there, especially you're playing State. But obviously you'll see Holton will probably be there for sure. I know Tyler Snead's going to be there. So I think a lot of guys still want to come. I'm not sure about how the fans feel, but I know a lot of the players still want to come and be there and support.
All right, Maceo, bowl season is upon us, obviously including ECU. We had a few bowl games this past week. Tonight, there is I just had it up. Yeah, the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl between Memphis and West Virginia. Wednesday, you've got Western Kentucky, James Madison in the Boca Raton Bowl. You've got Cal and UNLV in the Art of Sport LA Bowl. You've got Georgia Southern, Sam Houston on Thursdays. Do any of these bowl games, are you watching this, or is it just like background noise for you?
A little bit of background noise. I probably will check into the Memphis game, into the JMU game, just because we have former Pirates on those teams. Trent Holler's the starting all-conference center for Memphis. And then you have Taji Hudson, who's a receiver for James Madison. So I'll definitely check those guys out, see how they're doing. It's always great to see, even when they leave, not playing in the same colors you are. But I'll definitely be checking those games out.
Playoffs start this weekend, and Friday we will get the lone playoff game on Friday night is Indiana Notre Dame, which should be an interesting contest. And then Saturday you've got SMU at Penn State, Clemson at Texas, Tennessee at Ohio State. For each of you guys, we'll start with Maceo. What game are you looking forward to most?
I'm kind of curious about the Indiana Notre Dame game. Indiana has a really good offense. Notre Dame's offense might be their weakness. Kind of a weird matchup in my opinion, but if I had to bet on it, I'd probably pick Notre Dame just because I think Indiana can be dominated much like they were against Ohio State. So I think that's going to be a big game. Just trying to see some of those smaller conference or maybe the guys you might not expect that could win it all, how they match up against a big school, just like SMU playing Penn State. We'll see kind of how the chips fall there, but it's big. I always tell my friend that a lot of friends were betting on SMU and Clemson, picking SMU, but I'm like, this is big boy football. This isn't just like Clemson's in the ACC, but these guys have won national championships, been to the college football playoffs. This is a kind of a different level. So I'm just curious to see how this how it's gonna fall out.
Can we really call Penn State big boy football, though, Maceo?
Compared to SMU, yes. SMU was in the American last year. I mean, come on, like, let's be serious. Like, they just won the American Conference Championship last year. And, I mean, they're doing great. Like, I mean, 11 wins or something like that, 10, 11 wins. So, I mean, that's awesome. First year in the ACC. But, like, let's be real. Like, come on.
I am curious to see what the weather's like. What do you got, Phillip? What are you most looking forward to?
I'm going to go the final one. I'm going to go Tennessee at Ohio State. I think when you look at the talent level of those two teams, it is more consistent than any other of the previous three matchups. And also it's one of those things where you think, hey, going to the horseshoe playoff game, no way Tennessee wins this football game. Well, if Tennessee gets up early, they average over 230 rushing yards a game. Dylan Sampson is one hell of a back, and if they can go out there and bleed some clock, I know they can't just go in prevent mode and try to not lose and not just try and win, but hey, they could easily get this crowd out of the football game if they get up early. We saw how the Ohio State team was booed off the field when they lost to Michigan in the horseshoe last time out. So I think if Tennessee can get out early, not saying they're going to win, but I think they stand a chance more than any other road team in this circumstance.
Any shot Ryan Day gets fired if they lose this game, Phillip?
I think they will want him fired. I think just due to the portal and the era we live in, it's so hard to fire a coach this late. I mean, he wouldn't even be fired till probably Sunday morning. I mean, that's almost Christmas. Most of the guys in the portal have already been snatched up. You're going to have half your team hop in. I think it would not bode well for the team moving forward, so I don't see it happening. But there would definitely be some fans that would be calling for his head if he loses this one, especially with that loss to Michigan there the last game of the regular season.
Yeah, Maceo, it is crazy to say a coach who's 66-10 is on the hot seat, but like I feel like he is. Like I think Ohio State fans are just tired of the big losses. So I'm with Phillip. Like I doubt it happens, but part of me does wonder if they lose like an embarrassing fashion. Let's say Tennessee goes in there and walks the dog. Like then what happens? Because their fan base is already mad.
Well, let's not forget that about a week ago, an Ohio State representative is saying he wants to try to pass it a felony for flag planting in college football.
Yeah.
So, like, let's kind of think about that. This is Ohio State. Like, they almost try to do and think they can do whatever they want. So it wouldn't surprise me. I think they might have won his first 2 games against Michigan and then have lost the last 3 or 4 in a row, which last year you kind of understand. But this year was definitely the year to get him. And, if an early playoff exit doesn't help his case. But like Phillip said, it's kind of late. Coaches have already gone everywhere. Even Dan Mullen is back in coaching scene. So it's kind of late, but I think they could kind of make a move. They could definitely have enough money to do it.
Bring back Urban Meyer. Let's go ahead and complete the circle. By the way, guys, Penn State hosting SMU. I kind of liked SMU in this game until I saw the weather. 26 degrees at kickoff. That is at a noon start. I think they're going to struggle in that cold weather. But we'll see. NFL, Maceo, your Chiefs, again, find a way to win. Actually look good this time. But Patrick Mahomes goes down. So they've got a little bit of a tough schedule coming up, and we'll see if Mahomes plays. I think they have the Texans, and then they play the Steelers, and then they close at the Broncos. So they're still playing for that number 1 seed. The Bills looked incredible against the Lions on the road. The Chiefs have a 2-game lead, but it's basically a 1.5-game lead because the Bills have the tiebreaker. So do you think Buffalo can catch KC with Mahomes being banged up?
I think so, but I think also I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think if the Chiefs win against the Texans this week, I want to say they could lock down the number 1 seed in the first round bye. I'm not 100% sure, and I think it's kind of that weird aspect of having a game 3 or 4 days after on Christmas Day and wanting to sit players. So I think that could help out a little bit if we take care of business and let's say the Bills lose. But I think that's kind of the big thing that's going on. And I'm sure the guys are thinking over there, let's go ahead and wrap this game up, get Mahomes healthy to win this game on Sunday. And, let's say the Bills lose and we have the number 1 seed outright. So I would definitely sit the guys on Christmas. I don't know how the upper people in the top third floor, we like to call them at ECU, would feel about guys sitting out on Christmas Day after they decide to do it this year. But that's definitely a thought, and I would definitely do it if I'm Andy Reid or any of those other guys.
You're right, Maceo. With a win and a Buffalo loss, you would clinch the 1 seed. However, Buffalo's at home against New England, so don't cross your fingers on that one. And, one of the big things that I think, and part of the reason Patrick Mahomes did not go back into this contest is one of the things that Andy Reid's done great in the Patrick Mahomes era is having a backup who's been a starter. And, you haven't had young guys who throw them out there and you go, is this guy going to be wide-eyed? Is he going to freak out? No, you've got Carson Wentz, a guy who's played in and won playoff games, as your backup quarterback. Do you think that maybe plays into this decision a little bit as well because he is so experienced?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Carson Wentz, like you said, has played a lot of football. And I think a couple weeks ago when Mahomes went out, kind of buckled probably his ankle or knee, it looked like a few weeks ago, Wentz was ready to go in. So I think that's a level of comfort there. Wentz might throw a pick or so. It's not like Mahomes hasn't done that this year, but I think you definitely feel comfortable with that. And I think the Texans aren't as good as, people might have projected earlier in the season, or at least haven't looked as good as people were projected before the season started. So I think people are feeling good there. But I think this week is definitely a big one. And I don't think anybody really wants to play the Steelers on a short week just with that defense and everything. So maybe some prayers got to be sent up this week, I think, in Kansas City.
Yeah, and I got news for you guys. The Bills are not losing another game because they closed the season Patriots, Jets, Patriots. So I think they're gonna win out, and then the Chiefs. If the Chiefs lose twice, which again Texans, Steelers, Broncos, I mean that's a tough stretch. Then the Bills would get the bye. So I am personally hoping the Chiefs win the next 2, lock it up. That way they can sit everybody against the Broncos in the final game of the year. Denver gets a free win, but we'll see what happens. Maceo, I do want to give you a chance to plug before we let you go. Carter at News Times, you're doing some work there. I know working on a column, so plug that before we let you go.
Yeah, you can find all my work on Carter County News Times. I'm working on a column this week. Been on a huge ECU football kick the last month or so. But this week, just talking about the transfer portal and some of the guys we lost, like Chase Sowell and Zakai Barker and IBM. So you can plug that, find it at Carter County News Times. It's kind of a weird world we're living in right now, NIL and the transfer portal, and just trying to kind of a mid-major, non-Power 5 group trying to keep his players and attract new players. So that's kind of the direction we're going in. I think the last time I was on the pod with you guys or the show with you guys, I think a viewer asked, if we win a conference championship, do you think that would help us keep our players and get other players and bring in more money to the university? So I'm kind of bouncing it off of that. So you can catch that at Carter County News Times, Maceo Donald. You can find everything there.
All right, check it out. Again, the online website as well, Carolina Coast Online, will take you straight to that section under the sports section for Maceo's latest work. Maceo, we appreciate the time. Enjoy Christmas. We'll maybe see you up in Annapolis, hopefully so. But it's been fun all football season long, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Maceo. Merry
Absolutely.
Christmas,
all right, he is Maceo Donald. We'll be back. Philip Pilkington and I will be taking a dive into the ECU baseball schedule. We've got some numbers to share, some more in-depth thoughts. Of course, it was released yesterday. heading into the 11th year of the Cliff Godwin era. We'll break that down. This is Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Looking for a great deal on a new Nissan?
At Greenville Nissan, we've got a great selection of new Nissans for under $30,000.
The stylish Nissan Sentra, offering top-notch fuel economy. The Nissan Altima, known for its comfort and technology.
The Nissan Kicks, the perfect combination with its compact design and performance. The Nissan Versa, delivering incredible value without compromising on features. And don't forget the Nissan Rogue, an award winner for 10 years in a row. Drive it home just for $22 down and $349 a month.
Visit GreenvilleNissan.com today.
Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arg!
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's cut in color. And let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
Christmas with the Embers, a concert for Pitt County Operation Santa Claus.
Merry Christmas, baby. Sure did treat me nice. Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell.
Tickets are $20. Kids 10 and under get in free. Make sure ENC families in need have a Merry Christmas.
Christmas with the Embers.
I love Christmas music. I always have and
What's happening?
Tell me what's happening. Every ECU fan's one stop for all things ECU athletics. This is Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday. Appreciate Maceo Donald's time once again. He's been a great guest all year long on the ECU Sports Network, providing insight as sideline reporter. Hopefully he can make it up to Annapolis. The ECU baseball schedule was released yesterday. We talked about it a little bit with Philip Pilkington and I, but we'll dive a little bit more into it now. I pulled some numbers, some RPI metrics, so to speak. And look, I mean, we're already less than 2 months away from first pitch. I mean, that doesn't even feel real. Mainly because this has got to be the latest schedule release in the history of ECU baseball. Like, usually I feel like this thing is out around the Purple Gold World Series. That was like a month ago. Army, I saw, we did look it up. We're not sure why Army dropped out of the schedule, but they have not even released their baseball schedule yet. They dropped out of the Keith LeClaire Classic, I should say. So that was the holdup, and we were also doing some math. There right now are only 55 scheduled games. So the max is 56. We could see ECU add another as time goes on. But just a kind of an odd release just due to how late it was.
Yeah, it was, and I think I kind of mentioned it yesterday. From what I understand, from what I've been told, that really was the holdup. It was just trying to find someone else for the LeClaire Classic. A lot of these games were finalized back, I want to say, as early as August or September, and they try their best to find somebody. And, you want to be able to play 3 games that weekend. It's a weekend series. A lot of people, make sure that they come to town. I know plenty of people that either live out of town or have recently moved out, and they say, I always try and make it back for the LeClaire Classic weekend. They already take that Friday off. They plan on having 3 contests, and a lot of the pure baseball fans have want to show up and see 2 games a day. Well, now it's only going to be 1 game a day, which makes it lose a little bit of its luster. I'm not going to lie. It's still a great cause. It raises money for ALS and all that's wonderful. But with that being said, from a baseball mindset, you want to have all those games, and that, from what I understand, is the reason for the late release. And obviously we already knew some of this stuff. Coastal had put out their schedule. NC State had put out theirs. I think Carolina had already announced theirs. So we knew some of these things already. But you wish that we could have filled that 56th game.
We will try to get some of the ECU baseball assistants on early in January or early after Christmas, before preseason practice. Jeff Palumbo and Austin Knight, always great guests. We had Cliff Goblin on recently to kind of preview the upcoming season. All right, Robert Dedrick on YouTube says, does Army being in the American have anything to do with them dropping the Classic? No, because they're in the Patriot League for baseball. It is unrelated to that. I don't think that has anything to do with it. Johnny Robertson with our stats. He says there are 17 games scheduled against schools from North Carolina, which is the most since 2010, which also had 17. So appreciate that, Johnny's stats, for the update. All right, so looking at the schedule, again, pulled some RPI numbers. We'll start with the weekend slate first. These are RPIs based on last year. And again, with college sports now, how much things change year to year with the portal. Some of these teams will be drastically different, but just to kind of give you an idea of what type of program we can expect. George Mason, which will have a coach going into the second year, so you expect a jump there. The season opening opponent, they were RPI 234 last year. That is the lowest RPI amongst any non-conference series on the schedule. Second weekend of the year, you play North Carolina, which was number 4, of course, and an Omaha participant last year. Indiana State, they do have a new coach as well. They are 11th. They will be in the Keith LeClaire Classic. Virginia Tech, 68. They did not make the tournament last year. They had the 68th best RPI. Coastal Carolina, of course, replacing Gary Gilmore, but 34th in RPI last season, and typically a very good non-conference opponent, so that'll be a 3-game series. Your final 3-game non-conference series is William & Mary. They were 121st in RPI last year, typically a solid team from the CAA. Then you get into conference play, Phillip, and this is where it gets a little hairy and really where you need to make up your RPI elsewhere, because Memphis was 201, Rice was 163, FAU was 161, Charlotte was 142, UAB was 183, Tulane, due to a late season push, 82 in RPI, Wichita State just inside the top 100 at 96, UTSA 119, and then USF at 146. They have the old Indiana State coach coming over. You would expect them to maybe take a jump. Tulane, or I should add, Wichita State also has a coach going into year 2, so you hope that is a jump as well. So as I look at the weekend slate, Phillip, it's important they added Coastal along with North Carolina. You know those are going to be 2 RPI bonus-type series. The conference is just where you really want to see a couple teams jump into the top 75, 80, because the last few years have just not been good enough.
No, they haven't. The unfortunate thing about what you just read off, 2 of the top 4 teams you mentioned, yes, they technically play them on a weekend in Virginia Tech and Indiana State, but you only play them once, right? So you're not going to play them a third game, meaning a second and a third game, meaning so they're more going to be like midweeks, right? And the fact that you're only going to see them once. And the tough thing, we have to be huge fans of the American Athletic Conference and out-of-conference play this year. I know we have rivals. I know we have teams we do not like. But at the end of the day, we are going to have to pull for them to be better teams, because we say it on here. It seems like every week in conference play, if as it relates to RPI, we would be better off faking COVID and not showing up than showing up and winning, because of how bad some of these teams are. Now, that is due to a flawed system, not our fault. Also not our fault that our conference stinks. You have 2 teams in this conference who are former College World Series participants. So Rice and Wichita State, get your crap together, help us out a little bit, and become a decent baseball club. What's going on out there in the Central Time Zone? I don't know if they put something bad in the water, but get your crap together.
no excuse for Rice to not be a top 100 RPI team. Tulane, look, I get it. Congrats on your Miracle Conference tournament runs. How about you play baseball starting in February? Let's stop waiting until May and June to wake up and actually provide some value to the rest of the league. No offense, Corey Galore, if you're listening. But this whole let's just start playing baseball in May thing is getting kind of old. Wichita State, good that they made some noise last year, but hopefully it can be even better this year with year two. And then UTSA, I'm looking forward to their return trip to Greenville because they like the jaw, so that should be an exciting series late in the season. And USF, again, no excuse to be that bad of a program in Tampa, Florida, with all the talent in baseball in Florida.
Well, the other frustrating thing is their last few years in CUSA, UTSA was ranked, and Charlotte was making tournaments regularly, and they came here in the tournament, and now these teams stink. I mean, it's what the hell?
Yeah, it's frustrating, man. And then, ECU loses points for going 3-0 at times. It's tough. So, midweek, this is where ECU can make up its RPI difference with the regional schedule. Campbell, which does have a new coach, they were 85th in RPI last year. Typically a regional type team. Old Dominion 75, sometimes a regional team. Gardner-Webb, the lowest non-conference midweek RPI at 220. I think that's just a one-off game early in the season. VCU back-to-back midweek road games, 73 in RPI. They were a tournament team last year. Obviously played in Greenville. UNCW, 3 games against them. They are 38 in RPI last season. Duke, 1 game against them. They were top 20 in RPI at 20th. Elon was down, has been down the last couple of years. They were 178. Hopefully they can start to bounce back. And then NC State, 2 games against them. They were 12th in RPI. So that's where you're going to make up a lot of hay, Phillip, playing these midweek games, a lot of them being on the road.
It is, but it makes it so tough is that it puts so much pressure on those midweek games to win. Now, when you play North Carolina, which I know that is a weekend, you play NC State, who's 12, maybe even Duke, who's 20, you can actually gain points from losing, so it's not the end of the world if you lose, but a lot of pressure gets put there. Now, this is maybe for a conversation for another day just because we're short on time. The good news is we feel really good about the depth of this pitching rotation. There is hope that there can maybe be even a consistent midweek starter, and maybe this puts you over the hump in some of those midweek games and really boost that RPI. But yeah, it does kind of stink, right? I mean, Wilmington's good. You get them 3. You only get State twice. You only get Duke once. And that's a road game at least, so that helps. But it's going to be a quad 1 either way if they retain that top 20 RPI. So, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just kind of frustrating that you have to put so much stock in so few games in a sport like baseball where anything can happen, where you play 55 or 56 games because your conference is, choosing to just not give a rat's behind about baseball.
Yeah, and with 9 conference weekend series, it's a lot of conference games you have to overcome if your conference is weak in terms of the metric. But overall, I think Jeff Palumbo, Cliff Godwin did an incredible job with the schedule. Makes a lot of sense on a lot of layers, and I think just adding the second big non-conference series, Coastal, to go along with North Carolina, I think will really help the next 2 years with the schedule. We will take a break. John Moody, by the way, adds, I'm waiting for Johnny to just drop a random fake stat, and we all believe it. To be honest, I think Johnny's been dropping random fake stats all along, and we're just running with it. I mean, because some of these stats, like today, obviously kind of easy to compute. Some of these stats, I don't know where or how he finds them, but I'm just running with it, and I'm going to keep running with it even if they're wrong. We'll just act like they're right. So thanks, Johnny, for the contributions. We'll get a final break in. We'll come back. We'll talk some ECU hoops. Pirates have a game tonight inside Minges. They badly need a win. We'll discuss that. This is Hoist the Colors.
This holiday season, get the gift you really want at Greenville Toyota. It's our holiday trade-up. Drive a new Corolla, just $229 a month, or a new Tacoma, only $329 a month during the holiday trade-up at Greenville Toyota.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
Hey, on the mountain we've got a saying. Get off your...
Show off.
Mountain Dew.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Everybody loves Tiebreakers.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked to order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
Unwrap a new Toyota for the holidays at Greenville Toyota. It's our holiday trade-up. Get a new Camry, $269 a month, or a new RAV4, $329 a month. Trade up and save at Greenville Toyota.
Back to Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo.
Drink up, me hearties, yo-ho.
On 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back. Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday. We've talked ECU football. We've talked ECU baseball. Let's talk some hoops. Minji's Coliseum tonight, 7 o'clock. Florida International rolls into town. Old Conference USA rivalry for the 1 year that ECU and FIU were in the same league. I think FIU won the game. I was looking at it the other day. Now we get a rematch. ECU, it's been a struggle. 3-game losing streak. Mike Schwartz kind of vowed to make some changes. Didn't really say what or who those changes would be. So we'll see if we notice any differences tonight. Philip, I don't know. Can you put your finger on guessing any changes we may see for ECU basketball tonight, or is it just really kind of a wait and see from you?
My guess is there's going to be different pairings of guys, or I should say pairings, 5 guys in the court. Different groupings of guys in the court maybe you haven't seen before. Don't know if this means they're going to go to more of a positionless game or even more so to a true position game. Maybe he goes to 2 true forwards and kind of 3 perimeter players. Maybe they change up who's running the point guard. I really don't have an idea. I'm just kind of spitballing here clearly. But the point is, yes, something's got to change because, look, there's not been much offensive firepower. This is a team who forces turnovers really well. And creates looks off of those turnovers. And this is a team who, despite being better against the three-point shot lately, the big thing, the reason why they won a lot of games last year is because when they tried to force turnovers, it left open threes for opponents, and opponents hit those threes at 40% a year ago. Well, guess what? ECU ain't been shooting anywhere close to 40% from downtown. You're going to have to make some threes. If that means walk-on Evan Maltinari, who's I think has been the best three-point shooter, at least in pregame warm-ups, a little bit of practice we've seen, has to play 40 minutes because he's out there raining threes, then you know what? I'll take it. I don't care if a guy's on scholarship. I don't care if it's some guy that you find playing intramurals and you sign him to the roster. Look, we got to score some points if we want to win basketball games in 2024. You can't play Dean Smith 4 corners and win games 20-16.
Yeah, ECU is shooting 28.8% from three-point range, which is honestly just horrific through this point. And if you take out the North Carolina Wesleyan and Mount Olive games, ECU is 10 of 20 from 3 versus Wesleyan 6 of 23, which isn't very good either against Mount Olive. The number is even lower, and this team is just – the shooting has just been abysmal. I mean, let's be honest. And as Philip said, college basketball in the year 2024, if you can't make the three ball somewhat consistently, if you're not elite at other things, you're going to really struggle. Kaysen Romeli is in the comments section. He says there will be 0 changes. By the way, just confirmed Kaysen is going to join us tomorrow over VMix, so we will get Kaysen. We'll get his insight on the program. I'm sure he'll add a lot.
To this.
So he'll be with us. FIU, by the way, is 200 and I just had it up. 260, 245 on KenPom. They do play a pretty high tempo, 89 in tempo nationally, so they will get up and down the court. ECU still very slow, 320. Can we see ECU pick up the pace? Would that help at all, Philip? Is that a possibility?
It's not their brand, but it seems like early in the season when we were playing up tempo, things actually kind of worked. A lot of the players on this team have great court vision, and maybe going quick and just seeing the open man is what they need to do. And then you have guys backdoor cutting to a specific spot on the floor could be good. Maybe the slow tempo has been an issue. I don't know, but it does seem like since they've slowed down, they've struggled, even though that seems like the more identity of a Mike Schwartz coach team.
For sure. Defensive-oriented, slow tempo, that I think is kind of what he wants to run. But whatever they're doing right now is not working. 7-4, but 5-4 against Division I competition. Pirates need a win tonight. FIU in Minges. It'll be ESPN Plus. It'll be 7 o'clock. Philip, appreciate your insight. As always, man, we will connect tomorrow.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me on. You going to be there tonight?
I will. I will be inside Minges. I will not be there Saturday. It's my wife's birthday, so I have to make an appearance now. It's been a while.
Hey, you and me holding down Media Row tonight. Looking forward to it.
Yep, it'll be only us because I think all my interns are gone, and I'm sure all yours are as well.
Yeah.
All right, we will get out of here. Kaysen Romeli tomorrow. We'll recap the FIU game. We'll talk hoops nationally, regionally as well. More transfer portal discussion. We'll see you then. This has been HTC.
Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo. Tune in weekdays at noon for all things ECU sports. Get a recap of the show at 943thegame.com, on Twitter, Facebook, or anywhere you get your podcasts. We're back tomorrow with more